she'll hear pops. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Just some housekeeping. If anybody needs to use the restroom, it's down this hall. There's a fine arts sign, and you turn left, and it's right on your left. And also, when we get to the question and answer portion, be sure you wait for a microphone because we're doing a live stream and recording it, and so we want to be sure everybody can hear what you're asking. So to get us started, we have Jacob from the district office, and he's going to do the welcome, and then we'll get into the presentation. Thank
you. Can y'all hear me? Okay, there it goes. Thank you all for coming. My name is Jacob Walker. I'm the district director for District 10, Council Member Alan Blaylock's office. He sends his apologies. He was not able to make it tonight, but I'm representing our office, so if there's anything that I can help answer or anything that I can do, please come see me. Thank you to all of the assistant city managers and department directors that are here to present the budget. We appreciate y'all coming all the way out to North Fort Worth. And thank you to all the residents and community leaders for coming out. I have the pleasure of introducing our city manager, Jay Chapa. His team and the CMO team and Fort Worth Lab have done a really good job putting this budget presentation together. So please give them your input, your thoughts, any concerns you may have as he presents this to you in our district. So I'll turn it over to Jay.
Thank you. Well, good evening. Thank you all for being here. It's my pleasure to have this opportunity to present my first budget recommendation as city manager to the public and to the city council. I'm going to cover about half of the slides, and I'm going to turn it over to our assistant director in our Fort Worth lab over budget and give her the opportunity to present as well. I always like to give opportunity folks that to get in front of crowds like this so that they can build their resume and build their background as we go forward. So the fiscal year 26 budget. Oh,
Fort Worth reflects smart.
Sorry, we're starting with the video. I forgot.
Benefiting from a fast-growing economy.
Fort Worth reflects smart, strategic growth, benefiting from a fast-growing economy, safe and clean neighborhoods, and a high quality of life for all residents. This year, we stone 1 million residents strong. With that growth comes opportunity to invest wisely and plan sustainably for the future. Infrastructure, community investment, economic development, and responsible growth. We are enhancing community safety by adding neighborhood police officers, providing infrastructure that keeps our city moving. We're prioritizing street maintenance and 2 major water treatment facility projects, while strengthening staffing to ensure crucial infrastructure projects are delivered on target. To our animal shelters. By strengthening the places we live, we also lay the foundation for a thriving local economy. To boost economic growth, we're launching a small business planning for tomorrow. This is reflected by updating service fees for water, stormwater, solid waste, and environmental protection to improve flood mitigation, street and park maintenance. Over the past decade, Fort Worth has kept budget growth in check, thanks to consistent tax rate reductions. The proposed tax rate of 67 cents is a decrease from last year, and maintenance, and 14 cents goes towards debt. We maintain a
video talked about, but in more detail for you all. And really, when I came on board and we entered the budget season, the big thing that was staring us in the face was a couple of things. Some laws that have passed down in Austin or were being debated down in Austin that could have severely held down revenues at the city, as well as the TAD, the Change at Tarrant Appraisal District, where they're not doing annual assessments of residential properties. And so, although as a homeowner, that's a great thing for me, and a city that's growing as fast as we are, and inflation is moving as quick as it is. For instance, construction costs have gone up 40% in the last 4 years alone. It's hard to be able to run a city and put in infrastructure and keep up with those things if you don't have the ability to recoup costs associated or to get revenues to be able to pay those costs. So as we went into the budget process, the facts that we were growing so quickly, it looked like our revenues were really going to be constrained. I'm an old budget analyst. What I worked with the leadership at the city was to go through and have every department start their budget with a 1% reduction. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that translates basically to about $8 million. Yeah, about $8 million was what we started the whole process lower than we had the year before, or what we thought we were going to start. If everything would have just stayed the same, we started the process with an $8 million cut. We then also went through a process of asking every department to put together packages that would cut another 3%, individual packages that could lead to up to 3% cuts in their budgets. And the idea behind theirs was that if revenues came way down, we had areas that we could actually then go, that the departments saw where they would have the least amount of impact to the services provided to you all as citizens. As we went through that, and through the budget, one of the things that's become extremely obvious to me and to the rest of the staff and to the city council is that as we've grown, we have a lot of needs on the utility side, stormwater side, and especially in the environmental side, trash pickup, as well, and the trash and recycling and keeping things clean that are driven by fees. And a lot of those fees, for instance, on the trash side, our fees have not gone up or moved since 2003. It's over 20 years we've been at the same level on the fees. And being able to keep up with the demand on a growing city like us, like we have, that was going to be difficult to do that. So I had two things in mind as we went through the budget. One is that we needed to address some of those fees, and so there are increase in fees in this budget, but at the same time try to have as little impact to the homeowners as we could through on the property tax side. So how many of y'all that are homeowners here protested your property values this year? And you probably did it last year. So last year went down, this year they didn't appraise, so you had a lower base, and you protested again and went down again. So knowing, we get all the numbers from across the whole city, knowing that that was the case, we know that values are actually down, so if we could do anything to keep the tax rate the same or below it, we know homeowners are getting a smaller tax bill from the city going forward. And part of that idea was that we were trying to create an offset with the fees that we know long-term we need to have some of these fees go up in order for us to continue to deliver the services, continue to make sure that we don't have parts of the city flooding with all the rain that's been coming down, especially the way it comes down hard the way it is. And in order to be able to serve the city with water, wastewater services, and residents as we continue to grow. And so you'll see some of those costs that we go through this. One of the big things also, as you'll see as we go through this, is making sure that we kept our public safety on the forefront. And as we go through here, you'll see that we're, as you probably know, MedStar, the city took over MedStar and is becoming part of the city as a fire department. So that was a big cost that was driving things. We also added additional PAYGO, and PAYGO is basically maintenance capital to keep streets, to keep park infrastructure, those kind of things maintained, as well as adding funding to, have any of y'all heard of the tool shed program? So we've had a pilot, our code compliance director has, he's the one that instituted it. So we had a pilot program going on in certain neighborhoods in town, and the tool shed program is a program that allows a citizen who either maybe their lawnmower broke, maybe they don't have a lawnmower, maybe they don't have garden hedges, but if they want to work on their lawn and their yard, they can call this number or sign on. The city will deliver whatever it is you need, let you use it. 2 days later, come and pick it up, take it back, free of charge. The idea behind it is that we want to have more of our neighborhoods be kept up and take away the excuse that somebody maybe can't afford it. Maybe it's somebody's, an elderly person owns the home and they can't keep up with it, and the person that usually helps them do it is not around, and so the grass is overgrown, those kind of things. So the idea is to provide this is a benefit to the citizens. So additional funds were added that so that we can take that citywide now. And then finally, one of the toughest jobs anywhere and in the city are the folks that work at our animal control facilities, in the facilities themselves. And so this is a priority because it's hard to keep folks in those jobs because they're high stress, there's constant complaints, and what we have is a program where we work with nonprofits that takes formerly homeless folks, and we use a contract with that program to come in and provide additional staffing at times of need when we have a lot of animals coming through the system. And so that program is being expanded so that we can keep up with the growth and the amount of animals that we deal with. And finally, like any other business, the city needs to keep up with investment in employees in order to keep the best and brightest, and as in, cost of doing business. And so we do have funds allocated for is it back? Okay. As was mentioned, the budget, I'm not going to go through that video kind of played through all that, but the budget, we do try to focus under strategic plan and the strategic areas that the city council came up with about 3 years ago. And we kind of put the budget together with these things in mind. And so high level on the community safety side, I mentioned the EMS, full funding for the EMS services. You'll see as we go through the budget, that's over $20 million of the increase in the city's budget this year is tied just to this program. And that is taking MedStar in as part of the city in the fire department, which we hope will be much higher level service it's already showing that it is, higher level service and better response and better coverage across the city, and 14 also cities that help pay for the service, surrounding cities that were all part of MedStar before. We're also adding a new department. By bringing this service in, we're actually tying our 911 folks, everybody that answers 911s, into a new emergency management group where you have the consolidated calls, and you also have one group that kind of leads the efforts if we ever have an emergency across the city. They lead the emergency response piece of that. And then finally, we're adding new neighborhood police officers. The police department went through a process to identify as we grow, identify and change the beat map on the whole city. Because of that program, we were short, or that new beat map, because of the growth, we're short 8 neighborhood police officers. So we are adding 8 neighborhood police officers. And then we had, the city shares the cost of school resource officers with ISDs, and we had an ISD request 2 more officers, so the city is adding 2 more officers on the school resource side. On the infrastructure side, we've been trying to do our best to prioritize street maintenance, so we are working toward reviewing the idea of in the future having a street maintenance fee. Several cities having this, so there's some funds in there to get that study completed. We also, as we went through and part of the discussion and reviewing of reducing costs by 1% and 3%, a few of the departments looked at the contracts that we have with outside engineering firms, for instance, that do the inspections when we do streets, when we do those kind of things, and found that because those costs have gone up so much, we could actually bring that in-house, hire city employees, and save 30 or 40% of those project costs. So what we've done is, going forward, we're going to go through the process of hiring city employees that do that kind of work, take off the overhead and take off the profit margin that goes to the private companies and save those funds, and those funds can be used for additional projects versus going toward those costs. And so that's going to add dollars there on the project side. And then I mentioned the growth and the impact of having to expand our infrastructure. The water department, it's on its own, has two very large projects: expanding Eagle Mountain Water Treatment Plant that serves this whole north side and needs to grow in order to meet the demands as we keep growing further north and northwest. And the Marys Creek Water Reclamation, that's basically a wastewater plant on the west side of town that needs to be built. It's been about 12 years in the planning and development stage, and finally next year it's going to be start actual construction. And that project is out there close to Walsh Ranch, if you know where that is, where it will now be the plant where a lot of that wastewater going out to the from west and southwest will flow to, instead of going all the way across town to the Village Creek treatment plant. On the community side, we added funds to the city's priority repair program. So this is a program where primarily it's for elderly folks, or if you are low income and you have issues with your homes that you can't afford to fix, and they're vital things like plumbing is broken, or the city has a program that you can apply for a grant and get a contractor out there, and then the city, this program allows that to be fixed as a grant to the owner of the home so that they can stay in their home. It helps improve the condition of the house and keeps the house in good shape for a longer period of time. And so we added some funds, about $500,000, I believe, to that program. Is that correct? Yeah, $500,000 is what we added to the program. It was an existing program. I mentioned the tool shed program. That's an exciting thing because I think we've seen in the pilots that it was heavily used and has really helped in certain neighborhoods. I mentioned the code compliance and animal services. The code compliance piece is animal services is part of code compliance, and one of the issues that we had in code compliance is that we couldn't hire a full complement of our folks because the pay grades were too low, and we couldn't get. And so one of the things is we've added funds and adjusted the pay grades to be able to now start filling all those positions. The neighborhood improvement program that's done annually, that stays in the budget. And then the Far Northwest Library, which is out here in this area, is funded. It's supposed to be completed next year. It doesn't start until, actually open until the 27 fiscal year, but we have to hire staff and get them trained up. So there's funds available for a few months before the end of the year so that we can have the staff hired, put in place, and so that when it actually gets completed in November, December timeframe of next year, the staff is ready to go. Oops. And then in the kind of catch-all on the strategic plan piece, the responsible growth. We are currently going through the process, have been for almost a year or so, on updating the comprehensive plan. One of the big things that, as we're going through this plan and some of the changes that are being made at the state, we need to kind of pivot on how our comprehensive plan goes to take some of the changes that have happened through bills related to zoning and other types of land uses. We have been in the process. The city council approved us going through an overall pay plan study. I mentioned that one of the things that we have several positions, several areas where we have a hard time recruiting, keeping up with the competition in the Metroplex, both with cities and with the private sector. And so we're going through a whole pay plan review of all the positions, make sure that people are in the right type of position, and then find out what the market levels are and make sure that our pay ranges are correct so that we can actually keep folks and hire new folks. And then I mentioned the fee adjustments. We are recommending changes. The water new tier structure is not necessarily an increase in the actual rate. It's a movement of the water usage. Part of this is to try to get some, we mentioned about the growth and the need to have water going out to the future. So part of it's conservation method area of it. And then environmental protection fund. fee, that's going up by, remind me. Environmental, is it 75 cents? Yes, 75 cents a month. So that's not a huge jump. Solid waste, you'll see that increase here in a minute. And then stormwater is going up by, I think it's 49 cents is the average per month. But 35 cents, I'm sorry, I said 49. That's the stormwater person. She's like, she'd love it for it to be 49 cents. On the property tax, I mentioned that our property tax, our values at the end of the day came in higher than we anticipated, so we didn't have to make all those cuts that I talked about, the 3%. But going through that process did allow us to find areas where we could save, and so we were able to do other things when the funds came in. Our overall net growth in our taxable value, you see there, was about $8 billion, excuse me. And so the actual change in the taxable value of existing properties was 3.4%. And then new construction value, so it wasn't on the tax rolls before, was 2.5%. And so we are recommending a drop of 1/4 cent in the overall property tax rate to 67 cents. Here on this side, you'll see is a breakout of how that 67 cents. So through state law, we're required to have maintenance and operations and then a separate debt service. So the debt service side is 14.75 cents of that overall 67, and the remainder, the 22 or 52.25, goes to maintenance and operations. The debt service side is what allows us to have the bond program. We are recommending having a bond issuance of bonds next year, and all that is for new streets, parks, fire stations, those kind of things, the big capital infrastructure, and that gets paid out of the debt service side. And then what we do with the maintenance and operations is we break that into straight operations and then what we call PAYGO, which is money that's dedicated to do heavy maintenance of facilities, whether it be streets, whether it be buildings, whether it be parks. Those dollars are cash. It's kind of like cash financing, not because it's not complete reconstruction of the street, but like all the overlays that you see to preserve the street to keep it going longer. All those kind of things come out of the PAYGO side. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Christy. As I mentioned, she's an assistant director in our Fort Worth lab, and she's over the budget side, and she's going to go through the detailed numbers.
Thank you. Good evening, Christy Lemon. Thank you so much for coming out to talk with us about the budget. I'm just going to cover a few of the numbers for you. So you'll see that top line is the general fund budget. It's $1.1 billion as the video and as Jay said. So you'll see that's about 4.5% increase. When I talk about where some of that growth went, in just a moment, this is the breakout on the general fund, so you can see all of the different tax sources and other things that make up our revenue. And then, of course, you'll see the salary and benefits line, which is the biggest portion of our general fund budget. These are some of the drivers for where we put that extra growth in revenue. So as Jay said, we began providing EMS service this year, so that was an increase that we had to plan for. We had a meet and confer agreement with police and then a fire collective bargaining agreement. So going into the budget, we knew we had these increased costs. So 68% of the growth that we saw in revenue went toward public safety. That's kind of where that all of that extra growth went. And then we do have a little bit in there for workforce. So we have our pay for performance program, and that's how employees receive raises. And then also the pay study implementation that Jay spoke about. As Jay said, we put the same amount toward PAYGO this year in terms of percentage, but there was a growth there. And so we're capturing a little bit more for our PAYGO program. And that's the cash that we put toward capital. These are enterprise funds. So our enterprise funds at the city operate more like businesses. So their functions like our municipal airports, municipal parking, our stormwater utility, solid waste, and our water and wastewater utility. So you all are users of many of those different services, and you're familiar with those. You pay a bill each month, or you pay as you pull into park, or those kinds of things. So we did see growth in those funds. These are special revenue funds. So we have the Crime Control and Prevention District Fund, which many of you are familiar with. That is funded through a half-cent sales tax. And then we have the new Emergency Medical Services Fund there. So that's our newest fund, $89 million to provide that EMS service. There is a lot of revenue associated with that function. So of course there's medical billing and all of that to help recoup some of those costs. And then there is a portion of the general fund that's being used to subsidize that EMS service. And then we also have environmental protection, municipal golf, and then our community tree planting fund. This is probably what you all are most interested in. So this is an example of what a taxpayer would pay under this new budget proposal. So this is an average taxable home value for a property that has a homestead exemption. And what you'll see is that the property tax, the amount that the homeowner would pay for property tax is $20 less than it would have been last year. So you're seeing that quarter-cent property tax reduction. And then there are some changes to fees that will increase what you'll pay a little bit. And so the bottom line is, under this proposal, you'll pay about $3 more per month for city services if you use all of those services. That's kind of an average snapshot of what you can expect. This is the capital improvement plan. So if you look at that first column, 2026, you'll see there's some really big numbers there for water and also for public events. So Jay talked a little bit about the really big water projects that are upcoming, those big capital projects. And then of course for public events, we're gonna do some really big things in downtown with the convention center, and some work is also continuing at Will Rogers. So really big capital program for this year. And then you'll see those numbers change a little bit as we go. We, of course, adjust those every year depending on what the projects are, so those will change. But this is the 5-year snapshot, what we're expecting. This is probably really hard for you to see, but I was talking to some folks before we started, and streets are really of most interest. So that top line is the portion of PAYGO that goes toward transportation and public works. And the blue line is the current fiscal year, 2025, and then the green line is the proposed. So we're adding some resources to transportation and public works because we know we have that street issue that we got to continue to tackle. So that's there. And then there's also cash capital that goes to other departments such as property management, neighborhood services, parks, and then we have a community partnerships fund, a little one that we do a few things with. So that shows the growth, but the encouraging news for you all is that most of the growth is going to transportation public works for street maintenance. This is what the entire budget looks like. So if you look at our operating, this year it's almost $3.1 billion, and then you see the capital that we just looked at. So the total recommended budget for this year is almost $4.9 billion. I know that you all may have friends or neighbors who weren't able to be here tonight, so if they want to participate in the future meeting, they can even watch from home, they can stream, they can send in questions from home. So these are the opportunities. This will also be on the YouTube channel, so encourage folks to participate. Even if they weren't able to get to this meeting, they can participate in a future meeting. This is the first one, and we have a bunch of them planned over the next few weeks. All the information is here. And then we are, of course, leading up to the budget hearings on September 16th, and then adoption of the budget on September 16th as well. So we encourage you to come out if you'd like to make comment at the public hearing. You want to add something?
So we are here to get feedback or questions. So that's really the whole presentation, and we wanted to make it more about a conversation to see if there's any priority areas that you either think are missing, or we want to know what we did in an area that's of interest and be more specific. We can do that. And so with that, I'll open it up for any questions you might have. Rusty always has questions. That's why I was looking at him.
Hi. What is the funding for the police officers? You've talked about the additional MPOs necessary for the additional beats and for the resource officers. Is there any additional headcount for the police department? Are we getting closer to the levels that we needed?
I'll let the chief answer that question, but specifics. But there are going to be 10 new officers added to in this budget, and then it depends on who you ask on how many officers. If you ask the city manager, it might be smaller than if you ask the chief. But I'm just kidding, or ask the neighborhoods exactly. So I'll let the chief answer that.
So you're asking, what was specifically you're asking?
Are you funding more police officers besides the MPOs and the school resource officers?
So those are the only two positions we have for this year, are the 8 MPOs and the 2 school resource officers. If you remember, we do have some vacancies still, right? And we're still working to fill those vacancies by September 2026. And they are funded. And so for us, I want to be good stewards of the dollars. And honestly, if they gave us 100 positions today, I couldn't fill them because of the time it takes to get through the academy. So, this was a good compromise to have some positions put into the budget to try and increase our staffing a little bit while we're still working to get fully staffed.
Can you talk about the recent success in lateral class?
Sure, I love talking about the lateral program. We're one of the only departments in the state, and we haven't found one yet, that our lateral program is different than most. And so we take out-of-state laterals, we bring them in, we get them certified through the state of Texas, through TCOL, and we bring them in about 8 weeks early because there's a lot of in-person classes that they have to take. After they finish their TCOL certification and take the test, then they marry up with the Texas residents that are TCOL certified, and we finish their lateral academy. It's been very, very successful because we've taken previous laterals from other classes or other departments, and we've taken them back for recruiting trips. So we've taken them back to El Paso, and we've gotten more people from El Paso, from Baltimore, from California, you name it. The best part about the lateral program is the training is much shorter. So it only takes, if an out-of-stater comes in, it's only 18 weeks, but if they're in state Texas, it's only 10 weeks. And then whenever they get out into field training, a regular recruit is about 4.5 months, whereas a lateral is only 6 weeks. So they're spun up a lot quicker, and they can be out in the field a lot faster answering calls.
Thank you, Chief. And he's right about the recruitment of existing lateral folks, recruiting former, for folks they used to work with, because I was in a meeting and the El Paso city manager let me know that she wasn't happy that Fort Worth had brought so many El Paso police officers to Fort Worth. So, any other questions?
Through texting. Boy. The first one, when will the residents of Sendera Ranch in North Fort Worth be heard? The infrastructure is terrible.
I think we hear you. I think, part of the piece of adding more dollars to pay-go on the street side as much as possible, part of looking at the potential for a street fee, as well as the recommendation to do an $840 million bond program next year, and keeping, you saw the lowering of the tax rate over the last several years. It's been 8 out of 11 years, and then the small lowering this year, it all comes out of the operation side. We've let the debt service side stay the same, and as the values go up, it allows us to do more infrastructure from debt service. And so the previous bond program was at around the $600 million range. Next year, we're recommending $840 million of that. Over 60% of that is going to be going to streets and transportation, and a lot of that's coming to this part of town. because we know that this area is behind. And so we're trying to keep up or move forward as fast as we can. If we could get inflation to slow down a little bit, we could do more with less, but that's out of our control. So.
And then one more about Sendero Ranch. Is there a plan to add another fire station to this area?
I'm not sure that we have a fire station in the next bond in this area, but as the growth continues, I'm sure there will be the need for one in kind of northwest. I think we have the coverage in the existing Sendero Ranch and going east, but a lot of growth that's coming to your west and to your kind of southwest are going to be special districts. So they won't be in the city of Fort Worth, and it won't be the city's fire department that are be responding to that. So right now there is not a need or a plan for that, but as we continue to grow and as we're hoping that as we add more transportation infrastructure, that actual response times will go down because vehicles can move more freely. So.
No more.
Is there, do we have a recreation center in the bond for this area?
We just opened, didn't we just open a recreation center?
Yeah, but it's south of Bluemont. It's quite
south.
far from here.
David? I understand.
Good evening. Dave Lewis, Director of the Park and Recreation Department. We're currently in 2 studies right now. One of them is an aquatic master plan, one of them is a community center master plan. That data will tell us where the most needed new community centers are. We suspect one will be in the north end. As he mentioned, there's also growth to the west, the southwest, and we have community centers right now that are underserving and they're old. We have some 50, 60-year-old communities. So it'll prioritize where we need new ones and additionally how we mix in replacing ones that we currently have as well.
Push the button. You might have pushed the
That
button.
was pretty much it. What did you say?
Alliance Park
What about it?
and the bond issue.
Yes, we also have, the bond issue also has, there you go, money for Northwest Community Park and Alliance Park as well, so both of those will see improvements if that bond passes. And a big addition for parks as well, we have about $1 million in PAYGO that was added to, we have to do some repairs to the Lawfridge Dam that's at Northwest Community Park. So that's roughly a third of our entire PAYGO budget will go to fix that dam in addition to another dam that needs repair as well. That help?
Yes. So Avondale Hazlet, the bids were open today. So hopefully that project will be moving forward. I know that's a thorn in everybody's side that lives in this area. Any other questions? Well, we'll hang around a little bit if you want to talk one-on-one. Thank you all for being here, and we appreciate you all coming out. Thank you.